American dream.
Voice of Choice Wrestling Nation. Heard worldwide on VOCNation.com. The Insane Clown Posse.
We can't thank all you guys enough. Whoop, whoop. We understand our audience, and we give them what we think they would want.
We're about pleasing the fans.
Road Warrior Hannibal. Jake the Snake Roberts.
The wrestling has changed so much.
Conan.
Yo, this is K-Dog. Yo is Bowdy and Rowdy.
Hall of Fame ring announcer Howard Finkel.
Brilliance was Bobby Heenan's middle name.
Lex Luger. God's given me a whole new perspective on wrestling and the fans. WWE Hall of Famer Jimmy Superflex.
What up? Thanks for having me on your radio show from the Jersey Shore.
The legendary Diamond Dallas.
Bang!
Voice of Choice Wrestling Nation.
I put my name in, but again, we're just waiting for a phone call.
You could be Moroccan, Algerian, Albanian, Greek.
This is the best crowd I've ever seen in my entire life.
I love cheesecake.
I don't even know how to respond to his lunacy.
Malcolmania.
And I don't think Hollywood's ready for Malcolmania, but we'll wait and see.
Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Your talk show here that I'm doing here is the best one.
Jimmy Hart.
I've been lucky every day I get up and look in the mirror and pinch myself.
The ninth wonder of the world, China.
I told Vince, I said, yeah, I'm going to wrest the guys. And that's how it started.
X-Pac.
We're wrestlers, and it's still a wrestling show.
Mr. Scott Hall.
Hey, yo, I want to rock the wrestling world again.
OneWrestling.com, Bill Apter.
If it wasn't for Hogan and Vince McMahon, sports entertainment would not be in existence.
We have a bushwhacker in the house.
G'day, mateys. It's bloody lovely being on your show.
MVP.
I came up with the MVP concept based on everything that's wrong with pro athletes today.
VOC Nation. Heard worldwide.
This right here is the future of wrestling.
Wrestling with History worldwide in the VOC Nation Wrestling Network. The Voice of Choice, Bruce Wirt. I always want to say Killer Ken Resnick, but that's not who it is. It's not Ken Resnick. It's Nemar Wells, King Magnus.
Yes.
This is episode 24, and it's episode number 3 of season 2. Is that or is this season 3? Or actually, it was season 4 because you and I, we did a Wrestling with History like 12 years ago, if you remember that. You remember that?
No, actually, no.
We did like 2 episodes of a show because we gave the VOC Wrestling Nation to. It really jumped the shark. At one point, it was Brady and King David Lane were hosting that show. And Nanny. Remember Nanny?
Yes. Thinking of that trio, it's like, wow. God bless them.
You came back for it was like one of your ill-fated, short-lived comebacks. You're fighting with everybody, and we did.
That's not true.
I'm just messing around. It was just you and Eric just didn't get along.
No, Eric. Well, you said it, Bruce. You said Eric. Well, I mean, everybody wanted See, the people that might listen, people really had a problem with me being next to Bruce, and Bruce loved the attention, folks. Don't get it twisted. He loved watching the mice and the rats scavenge for second place.
I was the money mark.
And so, Bruce loved all that mess, and I was the sacrifice because it's like, people wanted to get next to him, and they would all try to sabotage me. And Bruce confirmed it. It was all, how to get Nemar out of the way so that we can get next to Bruce.
I was the face of a low-budget, low-powered radio station in rural New Jersey.
And listen, and that number 2 spot was very coveted. No, and remember, I actually liked Eric. I thought we had a solid team. I've really enjoyed Brady. I had the most fun with. Albert was the road dog. Brady, I had the most fun with on air, and I also enjoyed Eric too.
Yeah. No, we had a good crew, and it was such a good time back in those days. And again, I mean, low-powered radio station, drive time in New Jersey, Philadelphia, but really, we went worldwide. We went around the country, and everybody knew who we were. That was a fun time. We'll talk about it more someday, but I
It
still
was.
remember those days very vividly. Some of them I don't remember for various reasons. And it's just like you just look back on it and being on top of the world. Like it just felt surreal. And it's even more surreal when you look back at that time and knowing all the wrestlers. It was just wild.
You know, I think that's the thing for me. It's once you get into that space, and you do have to play it cool, but you're and it's weird because we actually were very professional about the whole thing. And so we didn't get a chance to really interact with every wrestler because they're used to that kind of nonsense and it can be annoying, and so we didn't want to do that. But we did have a very professional relationship, and people were used to us, and they weren't guarded or protected around us. We were very much so included into these guys are at the conventions, and they're backstage or involved, and we were a common appearance for a good while there, and that's pretty neat because it's funny. One of the things I didn't get to ask Tito, and hopefully we can ask him another time, is that Bruce, even in our life and time, we can say that the landscape of the superstars of our childhood, even going to the conventions are getting smaller because so many of them have passed away since then. And it has to be incredible for the wrestlers of that era to have so many of the people they knew die over such a 20-year, 30-year
Yeah,
period.
short period of time. And you said Tito, but we didn't tell the people yet, but I'll tell them right now on the program today, Tito Santana on the pod at the very end of the show.
See, I thought Tito was going to be at the beginning of the show. So
Tito's at the end of the show. Tito's at the end of the show. So coming up in a few minutes, WWE Hall of Famer, former Intercontinental Champion, the Broken Green Belt, and there's a great story about that you'll hear today. Tito Santana will join the show. And in honor of Tito Santana Nemar, I have some Tito Santana trivia that you're going to play today. We have round 2 of our trivia contest, Beat Nemar.
it's so funny because Bruce put me into this and there was no preparation for it. Like, it doesn't speak to my particular knowledge on the wrestling business. It's just whatever is in, Bruce's fancy. So it's not really a challenge. I'll probably fail, but let's go for it. I'll give it my best shot.
Well, listen, we can totally flip this. We could talk about it off the air, but I don't mind answering the questions. I have a great memory of things from 30 years ago. I'm just not good with 5 minutes ago.
Well,
All those parties with wrestlers back in the mid 2000 teens.
well, and also Bruce, I mean, those charges against you, they'll age you. They will age you, but thank goodness you got it. Oh, and we got to give a shout out to Monsignor Pete, because I know you tell us every week that he listens. So Monsignor, we would like to say hello, and blessings to you, and Bruce will be there this Sunday, I'm sure.
Talk about Pastor Alan Rogers from Life Church Merle's Inlet.
Oh, I thought it was Monsignor. I'm sorry, I got it all messed up.
And by the way, all those antics that you might hear on this show that happened back in the day when we were traveling with the gang, that was all before I became a Christian. Nemar was already a Christian and doing some of the crazy stuff, but I was not a Christian yet. I am covered.
Listen, guys, go back and listen to those episodes, and you see who's the most offensive. Don't get it twisted. I am definitely guilty. I was struggling. I was seduced by the celebrity of being on the air. But
we've apologized, and we've said our piece to anybody that we offended back 20 30 years ago, something like that. Anyway, follow us on X at WWHVOC. You can follow VOC Nation at VOC Nation, but we're the only show that we can vouch for. I don't listen to the other shows. I'm not involved in the network, so you do what you need to do.
wait, you don't listen to Wrestling Shoot interviews with the English fellow?
Oh, who?
Wrestling shoot interviews, WSI. I love when those guys, they get a wrestler on, and I forget,
Oh, I know
terrible.
you're talking about. Well, I mean, how many? There's a lot of British people doing wrestling shows. Have you
They
noticed that?
really are. And you know what's
Cultaholic.
amazing? They have a better encyclopedic knowledge of wrestling history during the era that I love and still continue to watch. Like they have it all down pat. It's unreal. But he tried to get I forget who it was. I think it might have been Jake on insinuating that Hulk Hogan is a liar. And, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like wrestling fans live in their own delusions and their own fantasies and stories. And then it's funny when those guys project that onto the wrestler and they look confused. Ted DiBiase is one of them. He's all,
Wait, Marcus. Marcus isn't British though.
no, but Marcus is a whole other because he does the same thing too. Oh yeah, oh yeah, gosh, yeah, all right, well then he Marcus is hilarious because he always says something that leaves the wrestler befuddled. So there's like this awkward gap. And then Marcus is like, let's go on. So it's
Yeah, he's
terrible, man.
training. He's training to be a wrestler.
You're kidding.
Yeah, Marcus is. I don't know where he wrestles, but I was listening. I like to listen to Ted DiBiase's podcast because I was a big Ted DiBiase fan,
Right.
and they were talking, and Marcus like, if anybody wants to follow my wrestling career, I'll be wrestling wherever he said he was wrestling. But yeah, Marcus. I don't know his last name, but he's a wrestler now.
Well, I mean, looking at him and his very small ladylike stature, he'd fit in great in AEW. He can go
Oh,
all the way there.
oh
He's
boy.
tiny. I mean, he can fit in your pocket, Bruce. I mean, what are you, 6'2", right?
I used to be 6'2". I'm about 6'1" now.
All right. So,
Disc. Lost
you
a disc along the way.
but you can still fit Marcus in your pocket. You can fit him in a fanny pack. It'd be like a kangaroo. You'd be carrying him around in your pouch. I
Or
just
did you watch? Did
sorry, I can't stand these Weasley wrestlers or wrestling fans that do the shoot interviews. They really are sickening because they're the marks. And don't get me wrong, some of them have very good questions that I do like, and you get a lot of good information, but they have their own agendas and they're very weaselly with things, and they really don't understand the business. And oftentimes they insinuate things based off of the fan perspective and not using their normal human intelligence to reason past not talking to the wrestler from that perspective. So they
I
just
was
frustrate me.
surprised that uh so I was looking at and I listened to and listen, that's that everybody it's tough out there. There's so much content. But
Right.
I listen, everybody's got a pod. I used to listen to Jake Roberts' podcast, but I was surprised with the lack of followers on social media and I guess the lack of the ratings. I mean, I can't see what they do or on Spotify or whatever on Apple, but I was just surprised. I thought they'd have a bigger following. I mean, I know you listen to Everybody's Got a Pod. I listen to Everybody's Got a Pod. It's a pretty decent show. You don't like Marcus, but I love Ted. Ted tells great stories. How do they only have 763 followers?
You're kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. But you know what I think? Honestly, I think again, it's the culture of
We have 25,000. But I
I
can't
don't
get anybody to call or text or write us. What gives?
wrestling fans are bizarre. They really are. Like we are a subset of wrestling fan, and I'm sure people could point the finger at us too. But I think with the shoot interviews, I think because so much has been repeated, there's nothing new that's capturing that particular audience. I think that's the problem.
Which audience? The wrestling fans in general or the bronies that watch AEW?
I think the wrestling fans in general. I think that first of all, there's too much wrestling fans spend so much time hating on the product and
Yeah,
talking about the product that they hate.
I
And
know one of them.
right. But I mean, if we're talking about because we're doing a show about the modern product, but if we talk about things from a kayfabe standpoint, like the old stuff, so it's history, and but they live in it emotionally from the backstage issues instead of watching the product for what it is. So they can't watch a match with a certain wrestler if that wrestler has a negative backstage story about them, and they decide to take that story to heart. So that's the problem. Like, wrestling fans are highly emotional. They personalize backstage drama, and it erodes their ability to truly enjoy the old product, and it colors all of the conversations and talking points, even in the shoot interviews. They just want to know the dirt, who's the scumbag, who's this and who's that. And don't get me wrong, it's interesting, but these people can't disassociate those things with being able to enjoy the product. So I think that it kind of poisons the pool of being able to actually truly enjoy the old product or the shoot interviews. And so I think that it's a very stagnant community, but I do think there's a return, Bruce. I think I'm seeing a lot more people who are tired of the negativity. Like, every time Hogan is posted, do you have to tell us how you didn't like him or you hated him for 30 years and you were a Macho Man fan always? Like, do we need to hear that? Do we need another "that doesn't work for me, brother" comment? I mean, it's how I've seen it written 500,000 times. Do we need to talk about it? Do we need to talk about how Flair's a drunk? It's
Woo!
it's the same. They can't even. I mean, there are people even after the documentary where all the major players were involved, right? And they all basically confirmed that the death of WCW was due to the new execs who didn't want it on the roster. I mean, it
Right.
almost was like an inside job in terms of the connections to Vince and how cheap he got it. All the players have mentioned it. The documentary is out. We all know. You cannot believe online how many people still blame the finger poke of doom because Sting didn't get that clean win. Eric
Yep.
Bischoff is the devil, never did anything right. They are so ridiculous. They are, and they poison the well. And I do see a very small tinge of people who are just like, dude, no one cares. Go
Nobody cares. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Hey,
Look at
did
that
you
girl
watch
gonna
Saturday
freaking.
night's main event while we're talking about old wrestling?
I watched a little bit of it. It didn't really capture my attention.
Was it cool to see Jesse on the opening scene? And they used both. So remember when I was trying to hum the theme music last week?
Right.
And so there was two different ones. One was Animotion,
Right.
Obsession. That was the first one from 85 to 88. And
Which I,
then it was WWE didn't want to pay the royalties anymore, so they made their own. And that was the do 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 doom 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 doom. You know that
see,
one.
well, now I know that you are doing the melody, but I can't hear it. But yes, I know what you're talking about. They did play Animotion though, right?
They played both. They used both interchangeably. The official theme song is Obsession by Animotion. That's right.
Right. That I think, and this is where I have to give. I've never been a Triple H fan, but for somebody like me who admittedly is very much so stuck to a particular era, I love what he is seemingly doing and moving and positioning the company into, because that has been one of
Thank you.
my gripes, is that Vince has been very particularly petty against certain wrestlers. And
Yep.
as a collector and a person who still loves that stuff from that era, it's very annoying that I can't get modern merchandise on these particular people. Like, Vince really does not like, Brian Blair. So you don't have much, Killer Bee material. And so, it's like I want a set of Killer Bees. Like, you know, I need, the tag teams are the tag teams are very popular in terms of collecting. Like, if you don't get them initially, you can forget it. Like, and they always skyrocket in price. So I miss Demolition. I miss the Legion of Doom. I have the the basics version, but you need some more Legion of Doom. So there's so many groups. I want the fabulous Rougeau brothers. I want a Strike Force with the jackets. I mean, we can get custom jackets. Shout out to Threadheads, but and shirts, and stuff. But but you want those things officially too. And it's just a shame that Vince has held that back. I mean, even on the network, this is what was odd to me. So we know they cut out all of the 84, 85 Hogan intros and outros, which you already know that disgust me. Yep. But then there was a match that I do collect Tony Atlas matches, and of course my favorites are the ones with him and Hogan. So they put one on the network that I had never seen, didn't know it existed. And you can clearly see that they cut out the press lamb. Why?
Why would they do that?
What? Yes. I'm like, listen, I hope that it's weird not to have a McMahon at the helm, like you mentioned, or the continuity of this conversation is still, not connecting with me. But we're keeping it raw, folks.
Well, we might talk to Tito Santana about that a little bit later. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
That's right.
I like how this broadcast was recorded at a previous date and time. Sort of like Saturday night's main event. It's a hodgepodge.
Except for this one was live. I mean, Saturday night's main event was live on Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern time.
So I think that they're moving in the right direction. Jesse, I think that his style doesn't fit, and it seemed forced, and his voice is very old. You can just definitely hear how labored it is. But funny. But what somebody wrote, I saw a commenter say, "Give him time," and I said, "That's perfect. That's right. He hasn't done this in decades. So let's see what Jesse could do. Let's see if they can turn this product around. If they can, I'm all for it, because as much as I love the old stuff and still want to see all the tapes and stuff that I've never seen and all of that, I still would love to be able to be like, have a wrestling that is must-see TV, because it's fun. That is fun. So hopefully that we're moving all the ways in the right direction. But let me ask you, how did you feel about the show overall?
So I loved it. I really love the feel of the show. So I think that they did a really good job of not overusing Jesse, because Jesse was not, I mean, he hasn't been part of the product, and he said 40 years, it's been 30 years. So who's counting? But I mean, they didn't overuse him. He clearly had to look at his notes in the beginning, and I thought that was a fail on the WWE's part, because they had him on camera and he was looking down at the desk to remember the names of Kevin Owens.
Right.
And I mean, use a teleprompter or something. I mean, you got to do a little bit better. But then at the main event, he was still doing his Jesse stuff. Did you watch how Hogan and Cody Rhodes kind of played that part for Jesse, and Jesse, talking about Cody cheating, and he used some corny jokes, but I really liked it, and I thought it had a big event feel to it. Like, it was really nice the way they did it for network television. I think it did 1.7 million viewers. It's a little bit down from what SmackDown had done, but I hope they keep doing it. I think it was a nice touch.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, everybody knows that I do not like the modern product, but it is not that I don't wish that there could not be. And so even though I particularly do not like what's going on with wrestling, if we are moving more towards a true face and heel system, I can get behind that. I don't think that is an antiquated system. I think the rebel bad boy type was fun for a while. During that era, I mean, it did get too raunchy for me, but you can have that break every once in a while. But I think that good versus evil is forever and eternally built-in thing that connects to all humans, despite the cultural changes that we see in the world today. People, I think, can get more people can get behind good versus bad, and if we could really bring that back to wrestling and really create strong divisions that way, then Jesse's style will have more of a flavor to it, because
Sure.
it's hard to connect that energy to this current product. So I think that if this is the beginning of a cultural change, then I'll welcome it. Jesse can get all the grace he needs to get reacclimated to the product. And it's funny you did mention, because I did see where he got the when he said 40 years ago, and that was clearly wrong. If Hogan had said that, he would be a liar, would be all over the internet, within the next minute after he had said that. All of the haters would have jumped to social media, and Cornette would have done a video on it. He said it 40 years. He just lies about everything. Oh, he sure does, Corny. Oh, he sure does, Corny. I can't stand those people. Anyway.
Oh, Brian Last, you're doing the Brian Last.
Yeah. Courtney's whining like a woman in a hot kitchen, and Brian's just sitting somewhere. He can't wait to get them jokes in. This is just ridiculous. Anyway.
So the one thing that I did have a problem with Saturday night's main event was they really just wrote Vince McMahon out of the script. And the one thing that was the most offensive in the beginning was that Joe Tessitore said, he was basically playing he said, I'm like your old broadcast partner, Gene Okerlund. And that's not true. Like, it's just
that
not
annoyed
true.
me. Yeah, that annoyed me.
Vince was he's yes, he's indicted. Yes, he's probably a miserable human being. Kurt Angle said today on an interview he's going to hell. Absolutely.
Wow.
But he was part of the product, and to just pretend that he wasn't there is ridiculous.
I agree. I think that I'm trying to find the words to say this. I agree. I understand that Vince has a lot of negative scrutiny upon him, and I do understand why at the moment he would not be celebrated. The timing is all wrong. However, I think that he needed to, at least with some accuracy to the event. They should have acknowledged him and then moved on very quickly.
Yeah. Okay. I could have dealt with that, or just not lie. That's all. Just don't lie. Just he was there. He was the original broadcast team. You don't have to celebrate him, but it's just stupid. It just annoyed me. But overall, I thought it was good. Advanced some angles with Cody and Kevin Owens. I don't know how long they'll draw that out. Clearly, that's not a WrestleMania quality match. We're all just waiting for The Rock to get back now, right? He's done being, what's the dude's name? Moana. What's his name? Maui. He's done being Maui. He's done the red one. That's out. So let's go. Come on, Rock and Cena.
Yeah, Rock is so funny because I do see online that he has a lot of hate against him, and I don't know where it all came from. I do have one speculation, but I'm not going to get into it. But it seems like his movies have been, I guess, a little bit hit and miss these past couple of years, because I think Red One that hasn't doing well, right?
I don't know. It's on Netflix, so maybe not. But Moana did great. That was, people were celebrating. It's funny, they tied it to Disney's like backing off of the woke stuff. I don't know if that's true or not true. I don't know. Moana wasn't woke anyway, so what? I don't know. I think he and I'm clearly not woke, but I'm just saying I don't think that had anything to do with Moana being successful. Little kids like Moana.
Right. Absolutely. And parents still take them to see, all of these, live adaptations of stuff.
Yeah. And so anyway, but
I think Red One did lose money. The box office was 175 million on a budget between 200 and 250 million.
So maybe he is. I know there were people that were mad at him for trying to raise money for the fires in Hawaii, him and Oprah. But
Right.
and I don't know the whole story, but I mean, who cares? I see rich celebrities trying to raise money for causes all the time.
Exactly. You know, that's what I'm saying, Bruce. It's the culture we live in is insane. And I do understand. I am no big fan of Oprah at all. And I do understand it is hard when you have very rich celebrities and it's like, well, what are you contributing? But at the same time, you can't, that's always how it has been. You use somebody's quote unquote celebrity to
Right.
encourage and to motivate people. So, you know, but
Didn't work
people,
for Kamala Harris though.
well, I mean, look,
But she did get her 2 million.
how many is she in debt? Is our campaign is still
20 million, right? $20 million
yeah,
in
it was
debt.
like 25. Okay, so
Oprah
they,
should give that money back.
oh yeah, exactly. I love Oprah was like, they gave it to my company. Okay, Oprah, we know. So because it didn't say Oprah Winfrey, it said, you know, whatever her company name is, get out of here. So silly.
OWN. All right, Nemar, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and I'll let you know about the trivia that you're playing. And this will be Tito Santana trivia in honor of our upcoming guest at the end of the show, Tito Santana. So we'll take a quick break. We'll insert commercial here and we'll come back with a fantastic game of trivia as played by Nemar. All right, Wrestling with History. And we have this trivia thing that we're doing. And our very first contestant, so we played around with this last week. It was just Nemar answering the questions. Our very first contestant is the head, the general manager of VOC Nation, the one and only Brady Hicks. Brady?
Going on, Bruce? It's Brady the Brain Hicks. I don't know if you knew that.
Is that what you call yourself now?
I just started.
The Weasel?
Something like that.
So I listen, you're a wrestling fan. You go back a long way. I think you're maybe a year or two older than I am. So in order to do this with Nemar, we have to do like 1980s centric things. He doesn't go farther than that. I think he stopped watching.
And he's a huge fan, honestly. I don't expect to beat Nemar. I mean, he has the wrestling buddies that he sleeps with every night. You know, he knows these guys inside and out.
Right. Right. And when you say sleeps with, you mean literally.
Literally sleeps
That's right.
with. And figuratively.
So you get 2 minutes. You can pass and come back to the question. And last week he got 2. It was Saturday night's main event trivia. He got 2 out of 5 questions right. So you'll have 5 questions. This week, in honor of our special guest, Tito Santana, we're doing some Tito Santana trivia.
Oh boy. Uh-oh.
Are you brushed up on your Tito Santana?
Maybe not, but we'll see. Hopefully.
All right, I'll give you a chance at the end to talk more about your show and what you do on VOC Nation and in the rest of your life. But for right now, we're going to concentrate on Tito Santana trivia. I'm going to start the clock, and it will start at the final word of the very first question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Jesse Ventura had a very distinct nickname for Tito Santana in the 1980s. What was it?
Chico Santana.
Chico Santana. Very good. I don't have a bell, but if there was, it would ding. Prior to becoming a tag team champion with Rick Martel as Strikeforce, Tito Santana was part of a tag team with Tom Zenk in 1987. What was their team name and who were their WrestleMania 3 opponents?
Pass.
True or false? Tito Santana turned heel in 1999 as El Matador Loco for AAA in Mexico.
True.
That is false.
Okay.
Tito Santana was billed from the fictional city of Tacula, Mexico. Who came up with that city name? I got multiple choice. Was it Pat Patterson, Vince McMahon, Howard Finkel, or George Scott?
You dropped out there during the reading. Can you read that again?
Tito Santana was billed from the fictional city of Tacula, Mexico. Who came up with that city name? Pat Patterson, Vince McMahon, Howard Finkel, or George Scott?
Pat Patterson.
That is incorrect.
Yes.
Tito Santana was in the opening match on WrestleMania 1 versus the Executioner. Who was under the mask?
Oh, pass.
Just prior to becoming a tag team champion with Rick Martel as Strikeforce, Santana was part of a tag team with Tom Zink 1987. What were their team name and what were their WrestleMania 3 opponents?
Yeah. Pass. I'm not doing so well.
Executioner?
Matt Bourne?
Matt Bourne, that's right.
Ding, ding, ding.
You want to try again for question number 2?
Yeah, I know it was like was it the Can-Am connection? No.
Can-Am connection. Who were their
Okay, and their
WrestleMania 3
opponents.
I believe it was the opening match. You got 5 seconds.
I can't even think of their Volkov and Sheik.
No, incorrect.
No, that's not right.
Incorrect. So we were looking for Don Morocco and Ace Bob Orton, managed by Mr. Fuji.
Okay.
You got the Can-Ams.
Okay.
You got Chico Santana. He did not turn heel in 1999.
That was a stab. I had never heard that. I believed it.
That was a pretty good one, though, right?
Thank you. Yeah, it was.
Howard Finkel came up with the name Tacula, Mexico. There's a city called Toluca, and they picked it out on a map because Tito's from Texas, and so Howard couldn't
Which you learned
pronounce
during an interview.
Toluca. I learned that during an interview, right, with Ken Resnick and Matt Bourne. So you got 2 out of 5, right?
Not so good.
So,
but I'm banking on Nemar not knowing them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. He's not very good either. I've come to find out. So in the room is you do this live every Tuesday nights?
We do, yeah. So we use the StreamYard platform now instead of our former provider. So we are live on In the Room, and you can catch that on VOCNation.com still. Just click on the Listen Live tab, and it will take you to our syndicated YouTube page where you can kind of catch up with us there. You can also call into any of the shows on VOC Nation. Just visit allvoc.com, except for this one for now. Yeah, any live shows on VOC Nation.
We're not committed enough to do it live.
No, I understand that. It takes a huge commitment, but yeah, we're there every Tuesday at 7:30 and having a great time doing it.
That's why I quit so many times.
You dropped out again there.
Yeah, is that my internet or yours?
I don't know. It might be mine. I pay a lot of money for it, so it probably is mine.
You got a red bar. That's why I quit so many times, because I couldn't keep up. I got to get busy, life, kids, and stuff like that. So not worth it to speak to the millions of people in the VOC Nation universe.
No, I totally understand, especially when it just feels like the real universe, where just occasionally you'll just get a signal from far away, and it's usually Rat Boy.
In a drone.
In a drone.
In a drone. All right, well, Brady, very, very nice to do this with you. We're going to take a break. Nemar will come out of the soundproof room that he's in, and he'll try his hand at getting more than 2 questions right. We'll be right back. This is Wrestling with History worldwide in the VOC Nation Wrestling Network. All right, so the surprise is now, it's not spoiled, but we now know that Brady Hicks was Nemar's opponent for this week. You all know how Brady did on Tito Santana trivia, and I'm not going to tell Nemar until after he has 2 minutes to answer these 5 questions.
Let's do it.
If you do, great. If you don't get them, we're not going to go back and do it again. If you know, you know.
See, now people, that's why I mentioned last week that we need to play some of those tapes, because you will start to learn that Bruce and I reference a lot of things from the past that might sound weird, but they have a meaning. So when you did this plan and you asked those questions, that means something.
Well, I had a thought in my head and I didn't say it. Oh boy. Oh man. I lost it. Okay, it'll come back to me. Okay, Tito Santana trivia. You got 2 minutes to answer 5 questions. The timer will start when I finish the reading of the first question. Are you ready?
Shoot.
You get some multiple choice, but actually you got one multiple choice question and a true false. Okay. I'm doing my best. Here we go. Jesse Ventura had a very distinct nickname for Tito Santana in the 1980s. What was it?
It was Chico.
Chico. Ding.
Do
One
you
right.
know? Hold on. And speaking to that, there actually is a match, and I didn't, I would never want to bring it up, but there's a match where Jesse, right before he ended his in-ring career, he's wrestling Tito. They had a feud, and he out-cheered Tito. The crowd was actually really big on Jesse. It's the Boston Garden. So you have to check that out. Don't get me wrong. Tito was the face and he was, I'm sure everywhere else he was big. But that's just an interesting note in that era where the heel was actually, audibly cheered more than the face. So
Get that on tape. You're lying.
exactly.
All right. Timer's going back on. Here we go.
Shoot.
You got one right. Prior to becoming a tag team champion with Rick Martel at Strikeforce, Tito Santana was part of a tag team with Tom Zenk in 1987. What was their team name and who were their WrestleMania 3 opponents?
It was the Can-Am Connection.
Yep, half credit.
Who were their opponents? So I know that the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov fought somebody in the tag team. Who else? Oh my gosh.
You want to come back to it?
They had to have been heels. I'll say the Hart Foundation.
Incorrect.
Dang
True or
it.
false? Tito Santana turned heel in 1999 as El Matador Loco for AAA in Mexico.
I'll say false.
False. You got it right. So two so far. Tito Santana was built from the fictional city of Tacula, Mexico. Who came up with that city name? Was it A, Pat Patterson, B, Vince McMahon, C, Howard Finkel, or D, George Scott?
Howard Finkel.
Very good. 3. Tito Santana was in the opening match on WrestleMania 1 versus the Executioner. Who was under that mask?
Wasn't that Axe? Was that Axe?
Was not Axe. Was not Axe. Let's go back to the tag. Did you pass on the WrestleMania 3? No, you said the Hart
Half.
Foundation. So that's it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you got 3.
Okay, cool.
You're the winner. You're the winner. Brady got 2.
Oh wow, rock and roll.
So the opponents were Don Morocco and Ace Cowboy Bob Orton, managed by Mr. Fuji.
I have no recollection of that. Wow.
He was not El Matador Loco, of course. Howard Finkel you got. And then opening match under the mask was Matt Bourne.
Oh, man.
Matt Bourne, who later on became Doink the Clown.
See, I get him and Steve Kern mixed up.
Matt Bourne. Yeah, I could see that. And you said Axe, who was the Masked Superstar also around that time, and then he became one of the Machines.
Right. So I think that's why there was some, at least you can tell that my guesses had some thoughts behind them that might lead you there. Wow. Okay. That was fun. I actually enjoyed that. I don't know how we continue on with this, how good I'll do. But I did enjoy this one more than the first one. And so you didn't record Brady?
I did. It's already done.
Oh,
I have to splice it into the show. Now everybody knows. They won't think that I'm just going to break, bringing Brady back.
Well, see, Bruce, you don't inform. See, this always has been our problem, guys. Bruce gets these thoughts in his head and he doesn't completely share them with me. So, and I talk very casually. And he's always like, hey, that wasn't supposed to be that way. Can't do that. I thought I was going to hear Brady's answers. That's all.
I don't have that technology.
Yes.
But listen, we're going to go to a new studio coming up in the new year. Brady is training me on it. Brady Hicks is the head of the network. In the Room with Brady Hicks is live every Tuesday. And Nemar, we're going to stream live on YouTube on the VOC Wrestling Nation channel. And we will be able to take calls from you out there. So follow us.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. New studio. We got to learn it. But Brady has invested in this technology for VOC Nation. We're archaically using Zoom to do our show, but we're going to stream live and it'll be fun. So we'll let you know as that comes up. So make sure you subscribe to VOC Wrestling Nation on YouTube. What's the channel? It's VOC Nation Wrestling Network, VOC Nation Wrestling Network, or at VOC Nation Radio Network. So that's not confusing, is it? On YouTube or on X, you follow us at WWHVOC, and we'll get you all of the information as we bring this show live, and you'll be able to call in and interact with us and any guests that we have.
I actually would really be interested in that if we can get that up and running and get a diverse group of people to call in and really give us some good questions and to have good discussions. And I want to also let people know,
diverse meaning one woman, one man, one white guy, one black guy, a Latino, and somebody from the Asian continent.
well, we at least have the Asians and the Latinos covered because I'm half Asian and half Latino. So, you know, at least we don't need those guys specifically to call in, but we would encourage you. I cover that demographic to show you that we have a diverse show. But also, I know that I can be particularly rough, and even Bruce can be at time. But no, if people were to really call in, we are really looking for good questions, and we won't beat you up on everything, even if we disagree. No, we will, you know, work to have, you know, a good fun time. We do tease. Now we do tease, but it's all, you know, it won't be brutal or vicious or personal, but we will tease because, you know, even like mentioning King David Lane and Nanny Ray, those guys were fans of ours, and you know they were, you know, really dedicated, and they did interact, and so we do appreciate them. I want to let people know that we really do appreciate those guys, and we got to know them to a degree personally. David Lane and I definitely will always go back and forth on a number of issues. So, you know, but always in good spirits. He was never disrespectful. And I love that about him. He was never disrespectful, never mean spirited. And so, no, we definitely encourage you guys to, you know, for our listeners to call in and chat with us.
Amen. Amen. So that'll come up after the new year. For me, it's going to be hard because it's hard to stay consistent with the recording times. It's very difficult, and I get flustered, and then I quit. That's how my radio career has gone.
But wait, and also we got to give a shout out and an encouragement to Monsignor Patrick that he also should call. And Bruce, when you see him this Sunday, you know, you should say, listen, Monsignor, as you kneel before him with the Book of Mormon, and you should say, Monsignor, please, please, I keep telling them that you listen, call in.
I'm going to get him to call in.
Exactly.
I'm going to get him to call in.
And don't forget, Bruce, in order for your message to be received, you got to shake the bells at the end of his, you know, the robe he wears when he's on the podium there. So up on.
None of that happens. There's no bell.
I'm seeing your Gary. We love him.
So Tito Santana coming up next. I have to go watch From. That's my new pleasure in life is From, with the guy from Lost.
It's a horrible show.
Harold. A great show. Lost was the best show ever on television, and From is now a very close second.
See, we need to talk about this. See, you brought this on at the tail end of the show, but we need to save this. That's right. Because, and this is good, folks. This is one of those things where Bruce and I are extremely divided on. He really loves From. I like the premise, but I hate the show. And I have a way to cope with continuing on with the show, and I will explain that.
So next time we're going to talk about From, but also let's bring our favorite TV shows of all time to the discussion. We'll also certainly mix in the wrestling, but this is going to be a TV show centric thing because I got a lot to say.
That's good, and I have a lot. You know, as somebody who went on the From Facebook page and complained, it will be very interesting. So are we talking about our favorite shows of all time or what we're watching currently?
Let's do what we're watching currently, and then
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. All right, we'll do that next time. So follow us on X, WWHVOC. Find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we're going to go live at the VOC. It's just VOC Space Nation Space Wrestling Space and Network. VOC Nation Wrestling Network. Do that, and we'll talk to you next week, right before Christmas. I'm looking forward to it. Stay tuned for Tito Santana, and well, I won't say Merry Christmas because I'll do it next week. Thanks, everybody. All right, back here, Wrestling with History on the VOC Nation Wrestling Network, and Nemar, we're in for a treat because we have with us, fresh off an appearance on Saturday night's main event, the one and only former tag team champion and WWE Intercontinental champion, Tito Santana. What's up, Tito?
Not much. Doing pretty good, Bruce. It's nice to be talking to you guys.
Yes, so much fun. We actually got together. I saw you when we met for the first time at a Road to WrestleMania tour. You remember that in Trenton, New Jersey?
Yeah, I believe that was the first match. Cody was part of the WWE, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and you said it was your first event that you had been to really since you left the business, right?
For years, yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Well, you still look the same as you did probably 35, 40 years ago. You don't age, brother.
No, I almost look the same, but not quite. Little change. But I do feel pretty good.
Yeah. Well, tell us about what led up to that appearance on Saturday night's main event. You know, a lot of people are really excited about it because we haven't seen Saturday night's main event, really the original version, in 35 years. And a lot of fanfare with Jesse Ventura being part of the show. And then we heard that Jimmy Hart was going to be there, and then you and Greg Valentine. So tell us how that all came about. How did WWE get in touch with you, and tell us the story?
Well, it all came about, I believe, was because Saturday Night Main Event, the first Saturday Night Main Event, I believe, was in 1985 or 1986.
Yeah.
And everybody that was there that night. And they wanted us to be part of, restarting Saturday Night Main Event. Me and Coco had just recently signed a nostalgia contract with the WWE, and I from what I understand, they want to start using the legends, which I appreciate this because they're giving us credit for being the pioneers and why the business is where it's at right now. They're giving us credit for that.
Well, you'll probably get I'll show you this, a brand new action figure, because I'm not sure they've made too many since this guy, which is your Strike Force figure from LJN, right? 1987.
Yeah, supposedly they're going to be making figures and putting me in games, and I'll believe it when I see it, Bruce.
Nemar, you're a big figure guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I have a few Tito Santana figures, and one of the things, Tito, that since now you're back in contact with the WWE, what I'm waiting for is a modern short-haired version of you from the 84 to 86 era when you were like wearing the blue tights. I'm really looking forward to a modern update. I do have the one with you in the all white, from the Strike Force days and when you went solo, and but I'm actually looking forward to some more. And Tito, let me ask you, do you have actually a favorite piece of memorabilia in terms of like a figure or something that has any significance or importance to you? Like, is there a favorite item that was produced of you that you like the most?
Well, probably I've gotten rid of all my ring wear because I don't intend to go back in the ring. Boots, trunks, jackets, everything is gone.
Right.
The most memorable figure for me was what was it, the LGN or the one with the purple tights?
Yeah.
The very first one.
Right.
And that's supposedly pretty expensive if you can find it in the box, and especially with the signature. I heard it's getting well over $2,000 on eBay.
Oh wow. Now, did they give you guys cases of those when they were originally released, or
They gave us a couple dozen, 24.
okay?
But back then, you could buy them, for $5, and we were, selling them for $20 with the signature. So we get rid of them right away. We're so stupid, we should have kept that.
Well, it's funny because Greg Valentine, he talks about his feud with you and the destruction of the Intercontinental belt. And he said, back then you guys didn't have a clue to even keep that because that would be something prized, amongst wrestling fans and wrestling historians. Even the WWE now is going around and collecting old memorabilia like that. But nobody had the concept like, hey, we should preserve some of this stuff because it's going to be worth a fortune. And I think that also speaks to when you talked about being a pioneer. People, I think, even wrestling fans, because wrestling is now such an evergreen property, people don't really look back and really take into account the cultural shift that happened in 1984 and where it propelled you guys, because nobody knew how to handle this. The marketing was different, and what a person's brand could be. And I love that it speaks to the rawness of the time and the newness of what you guys did in terms of even like Saturday night's main event and where wrestling is today. That's right, the legends are the ones who built this business, and people, but I think they don't get the full impact of how culture changed from one year to the next. It was like, 83 was great, but when 84 hit and things just took off for everybody, it was quite an incredible ride.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to find, I have a picture here. See if I can find it. Uh, Talk about nobody knew where any of this was going. Uh, you know, a lot of the legends are not around anymore. They've passed, and it's kind of sad. But God, I wish I could. Oh, here it is. I can probably show you this, guys. There was a promoter that brought us in, and I'm there with Alpha and Sika and Coco and Jimmy and Greg, myself, Bushwhacker and Ivan Putski, and he passed around the pictures and signed. We all signed it, and then he gave us one. I mean, I wish I had been doing that, all along. And my belt, the green belt that I wrestled Greg in Baltimore, I ended up with the belt, and Greg beat it all up in the cage. It was all bent up. That's why I got a new belt. So I brought the beat up belt home, and I had it in my gym, and it sat there right behind the bench, my bench.
Right.
And I got tired of looking at it, and 10 years later, I picked it up and threw it in the freaking garbage. And
Oh no.
if I could kick myself in the butt, man, I mean, can you imagine?
Oh my
That was
gosh.
the green belt was the legit Intercontinental champion. It meant a lot, and then it was beat up in the cage. I mean, I can't. People tell me that it's probably. Somebody said, you could probably get 100 grand. Well, I probably could.
All right, so here's what we have to do then. While somebody's out drone hunting in New Jersey, somewhere in a trash heap, if you dig far enough, you'll find that green broken Intercontinental Championship.
Yes, yes.
Bruce, we actually have not gotten a modern version of that green belt, which is why I wanted Tito figure so bad. I actually had to buy a custom made belt for my Tito figure. So hopefully this will get around to Mattel and the WWE, and they can get us a that original Tito Santana from the early 80s. Like that's my favorite era for him, and I'm desperately waiting for a figure with that green and we need a beat up version. How about that? A 2-pack with him and Greg and the beat up belt. They need to get on it.
That's
Hey,
right. Rich, I don't know if you guys know there was a commissioner from New York, Rich, was it Rich English or Rich, he was pictured with me and Jimmy on Saturday Night Main Event. He was between me and Jimmy Hart.
oh, I saw they paid tribute to him because I guess he's in the Hall of Fame, right?
They put him in the Hall of Fame because I think he's responsible for getting rid of the taxes for the wrestling. Where they made it entertainment, and he was the one that had a lot to do with that. So he saved the company, tons and tons of money. But he's
Rich
talking.
Herring.
Yeah, he's talking about that he had the green belt. Well, it wasn't the original, and I didn't want to say anything to him. The original belt I took home, and it's in the dump somewhere. I mean, kick me in the ass next time you see me, Bruce.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, so on Saturday night's main event coming back, I got to talk to you, personally for a little while about your journey away from the business. You were a teacher for some time, and you really didn't even watch the product, you said the last time we talked. So what led you to do this? Was it just the feeling of nostalgia coming back, or like some of the guys I get to talk to? I'm very good friends with Jimmy Hart, and I get to talk to some of the guys that were around in the 80s and the 90s. And there's a lot of people that just didn't want to be around Vince. Was that part of it for you?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they weren't very nice. I'm doing okay, thank God. I had another career, and I didn't blow my money away, but so many of my friends, were just left on the dust, and who they are, who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so I gave Vince my notice. Not too many people gave Vince their notice. I gave Vince my notice in '93, and they brought me back to do commentating for a year. They tried to get me to be an agent. I was done. I was done with the traveling. As much as we were traveling back then, and I just didn't want to be. I love sports. I love other sports. Don't even know when wrestling comes on. To be honest with you, that's why I don't watch it, because I'm busy watching other sports.
Sure.
So
You're in New Jersey. Are you a Phillies fan?
Well, I asked a buddy of mine if I wanted to make a bet to see if I could put some money on the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year. That they're looking pretty good. I think that would be a good bet. But anyway, I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh, we were talking about you getting back involved,
Oh.
whether Vince was a part of you not being involved.
Yeah, they try to get me back, on several occasions, and I just, I kept saying no and no. And recently, a gentleman called me from the WWE, and they wanted me to come to Philadelphia during WrestleMania, and I told them no, and then they wanted me to go to a SummerSlam in Columbus. I think it was in Columbus, and I said no, and I said, you guys have treated me like crap all these years. You haven't done nothing with Tito Santana for years, so and I'm okay. I don't really need it. I don't need you guys. And the person that I talked to says, look, we're not Vince anymore. We're a different organization, and we hold the legends. We respect the legends, and we want to do something with you guys. And finally, they offered me a nostalgia contract, and I signed a contract about 3 weeks ago. So everything has been happening, pretty fast.
Hot off the presses.
Yes, that's right. I mean, don't expect me to be on the road with them again. I'm not going to do that. But it would be nice if they start putting up some merchandise of Tito Santana, because a lot of the fans always ask me. They want some new stuff, and so do I.
Yeah, well, that's what Nemar said. He's been waiting. He's been waiting for the purple trunks.
Listen, it's been we only have one Mattel Elite Tito Santana figure, and it's disgraceful. And that actually leads me to a question, Tito. So, uh, can you explain your relationship with Vince? And then, to piggyback on what was just discussed, we know that some legends do receive multiple figures, like over and over again. What is it in a relationship with Vince and you personally, and then with others, where certain legends, like you said, are mistreated or brushed off to the side? Is it something personal with Vince, or what do you think your personal experience is versus everyone else's?
I have no idea about the other wrestlers. Personally, myself, I gave Vince my notice, and not too many people give Vince their notice. So I don't think he took it that good. I never called him back. A lot of the guys would call him back looking for work. Hulk used to always say, Vince likes to have closure. Well, he never had closure with me. I gave him my notice, and I never went back. They kept trying to get me to go back and maybe to get closure with me, do something horrible to really stick the sword in a little deeper than what it was already. I don't know. I don't feel like I had uh, I didn't have any bad feelings. Could Vince have done, or should he have done a lot more with Tito Santana? Yeah, but I could have also done a lot worse without Vince McMahon. So I appreciate everything he did, and I was there longer than anybody else. I was there longer than Hulk on his first run.
Right.
Because I left in '93. I got there before Hulk in '83. And I left in '93, and Hulk had already left. So him and I were the only ones in WrestleMania 1 through 9.
Right.
So I really don't, other than, I think we should have got paid more than what we did, especially for our merchandise. This new company is paying us more than what the WWF was paying us. Other than, he could have taken better care of the boys. I don't really have any grudges, God bless him, he's got so much money now that he probably doesn't even know what to do with it.
That's right. Does it surprise you that, and listen, allegations aside, because he's working through all that, but is it so, I guess, shocking to think of a WWE existing without a McMahon fingerprint on it? Because it's not even, Vince is out of the business completely, but I mean, so is Shane, and so is, I guess Stephanie's kind of still by proxy there because Triple H is running the content. But did you ever think you'd see a day where WWE was functioning without a McMahon?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that Vince was the brains, behind the WWF, and the WWE got as big as it did. And I got to see, I got to talk to Triple X and Stephanie at the Saturday Night Main Event for a little while, and Triple X is it Triple X, Triple H,
Triple H,
Triple H.
Triple X is something else. We don't probably want to talk about that.
I don't watch it. Triple H. I got to talk to him, but he learned from Vince. Just like Vince learned from his dad.
Yeah.
Those guys. And everybody around in Saturday Night Main Event this past Saturday kept talking about what a great job Triple H was doing. So I just figured that he's got the same playbook that Vince had. He learned from the best, and Stephanie's right along by him, and she's pretty sharp too. The whole family. I mean, they know the business better than anybody else. So they've got Triple H running the show there, and they say selling out everywhere. Overseas doing fantastic, and the company, with the new company is supposedly doing fantastic. The ratings are great, and I mean, that's what I heard. I don't follow
Yeah.
any of that, and I don't look for any of that. But the place was completely sold out. So obviously somebody's doing something right.
Yeah, it's the best. And listen, I mean, nobody on this interview sees the books, but supposedly it's the best business that they've ever done from an attendance and a gate standpoint. And television is weird because people have so many different ways to watch TV these days. It's not just about cable and TV ratings, but everything is up. And it's just an amazing evolution of the business because there's been you had the pre-Vince era, and then you had the boom that happened in the 80s. You saw the dip in the 90s, the Attitude Era, and then there's been this whole like kind of PG clean product for a long time. And it was like milk toast. I mean, people had kind of gone away, and now you have all of those different eras coming back together and really investing and being entertained by the current product. So I think the sky's the limit, and it's great to see you back on a Legends deal there. I got to ask you, is this you were in WCW for a cup of coffee after you left? You came back for commentary, and then you left for good. I think you one match on Nitro. What was the difference in production and the way that they ran things in WCW versus what you were used to in the WWF at the time?
Well, I just didn't, and I was only there for one day, and I didn't really never saw whoever was running it in action. But the way I saw in the locker room, the locker room was not the same. And I just didn't think that the brains behind, the organization, as I compared it, one to the other, I guess I was a little, you know, favoring the WWE and, Vince. I just figured it was a better organization overall. That was the opinion that I got. They offered me to come work, but I was done with being on the road. I mean, God, I had enough years, of being on the road 350 days a year.
Yeah, it's a big difference, right? Going from being on the road all the time to teaching and only having to work, what, nine months out of the year?
Well, actually, you only have to work 180 days a year. I mean, you had vacations all year long, which was very nice, and I remember they brought me back in, I think for Monday Night Raw or for one of the shows, and I was watching somebody practicing in the ring, and Vince came next to me and he says, Tito, you and I are both teachers. And I say, yeah, I said, you're right, Vince. I said, the only difference between me and you is uh, I get to go home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, you're putting in long hours, and he just laughed.
That's wild. Nemar, so we're coming up on, we promised Tito 30 minutes. Do you have some more for Tito before we kind of wrap up here?
Yeah, I wanted to just a few quick questions. Tito, it in terms of compensation, and I'm not talking specifics, as a child of the 80s and now going back, I still love that era. My favorite era is, 84 to 92. I wanted to know financially, what was the difference between, years prior and being on the top versus going into the 80s? Because now, you had one of the first LJN figures. So we know that those first couple of two waves of figures were very successful. And you also were in the Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling cartoon. For you financially, was it a major difference from years prior when all of that was happening? Or was it almost like leveled off the same?
No, well, up until then, like before I came, I had gone to New York. I went to Minneapolis. My biggest year was around $60,000, back then. and that was in the late 70s, early 80s. I heard Ric Flair was making like 100 grand in Charlotte. Man, and he was making the most, and that was a lot of money, 100 grand. But then, came into the WWF, in '83 again, and all of a sudden, we're making 4 or 5 times, 6 times more than what we were making, in the late 70s and early 80s, which, it was a difference. Like Mr. Wonderful was my best friend, and they didn't put the belt on him because he was a walking bomb. He'd lose it, and they didn't trust him. But I would tell him, as Paul, don't mess up here. Where are you going to go from here? And Paul was making close to 500 grand a year.
Wow.
I said, where are you going to go and make the same kind of money? There's no place else to make the same kind of money. Do you want to be happy in making 150 grand, or do you want to be miserable in making 500 grand? It's a no-brainer. As far as I was concerned, I looked at the business side.
Right. And I have another quick question, because one of the things that we learned to love in the Attitude Eras, and also part of your career, was, the destruction of the Spanish announce table. It became like a thing that happened for those of us that watched the Attitude Era. How was it? I mean, you've done it all. I mean, you were a wrestler. We can talk about how you were on top with Macho Man in '86. I mean, you guys were selling out 22,000, seat arenas. It was incredible. Then you became a teacher, and then you went into announcing. I wanted to know, what is the impact, do you think, on your career as far as the Spanish announce table?
Well, it brought me back to the business. And when I was doing that, I'd drive to Connecticut, and I'd work 2 or 3 days a month, which was nice. Had to make the pay-per-views, and for me, being an announcer was a hard transition for me to call a match in Spanish, because I had forgotten a lot of my Spanish, and I wasn't real quick with my Spanish thoughts.
You knew Arriba, though, right?
I could do Arriba, and I was getting better. I was teaching Spanish in school, and my Spanish was coming back. But the best part about it is it kept me on television. And you're right. It was always the Spanish table that was getting beat up and destroyed in the pay-per-views.
But we actually, as fans, we learned to love it. So I didn't catch on to it at first, but I remember my friends at the time did. And once that became a thing, I would look for it and anticipate it. It became like the little funny joke. So as somebody who was a casual fan of the Attitude Era, that is one of the highlights for me. So it's one of the things that I think it's celebrated amongst a good portion of wrestling fans. So thumbs up, because that always made me laugh.
So, a lot of good things happen in wrestling.
That's right. I want to get this out there so that people have a chance to do this for the holidays. But you got a book out there. It's called Don't Call Me Chico. It's your autobiography, and Kenny Casanova helped you to write that back in 2019. It's available on Amazon, and I have a couple copies. I gave a couple copies to my kids. Thanks to you for signing it. But great book about Tito Santana and your entire career, your entire journey. And one of the things that you talk about in there, and it's in the title, is, a lot of people I've heard over time thought that maybe you were really offended by Jesse Ventura referring to you as that, but you kind of said that's what helped you get over and defined your career. So it was a very positive thing, right?
Oh yeah, I mean every time we had some great managers, Bobby Heenan and Jesse the Body Ventura. Every time they talk negative about me, it was good. Bobby used to insult me pretty damn good. I don't think you could get away with it nowadays, but you could back then.
Wild stuff.
They can get the book directly from me also if they go on Facebook, and reach out to me. other than Amazon, there's a couple ways of getting my book.
Yeah, Merced Solis, right, on Facebook is how to get you, or do you have a fan page too?
Well, a lot of people try to friend me on Facebook as Merced Solis, but I have 5,000 people. There's no more room for anybody else on that one, but there's a lot of room on my other one. It's called the Official Tito Santana Group.
And we'll link that. We'll link that to the show today.
Okay.
And reach out to Tito directly, and then he doesn't have to pay the Amazon fees. Reach out to Tito directly, get a copy of that book. Tito, I guess before we let you go, if you're okay to answer, what do you think about the Vince McMahon allegations? Do you believe it? Is it something that didn't surprise you when that came out a couple of I guess a year ago now?
I hate to make a comment either way because I was not there. I have no idea. I never hung around with Vince McMahon and partied with him, and I can't say anything that I don't know for a fact. Did I hear some of the stuff? Yeah, but it's hearsay, and I'd rather not make a comment on hearsay, and whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, so I can't really share that with you.
Yeah, well, I hate to even ask, but if I didn't ask, somebody would say, "Why didn't you ask him that?" So, but that totally makes sense. Well, I really appreciate it. I appreciate the time you gave us today on Wrestling with History. Great to see you back on Saturday night's main event. Great to see Saturday night's main event in general back on the air. And is there anything else that you're doing coming up with the WWE that we should know about? Are you going to be at the next one?
I'm from Texas, and my sister-in-law called me this morning, and she said that she heard that they have a show in San Antonio the next Saturday night main event. She goes, they announced you, but I reached out to the WWF, the guy that I've been talking to, and he says, I haven't heard anything. He says, maybe it was misunderstood from the old show, or, bringing legends to the Saturday night main event. I haven't heard anything. The only thing that I want is I want to hear that they're going to make a figure or they're going to put me in a game. I'm looking forward to that, and the minute I hear that, I'll be sharing it myself. The WWF will share it, so I don't need any more plug than that, but, I'll be sharing it myself also.
Well, there you go. Well, Tito Santana, very, very great to talk to you again, and blessings for a great holiday season with the family. And hopefully you get everything you want for Christmas this year.
Thank you so much. My wife said that I already got everything I wanted. So she goes, I can't buy anything else. I buy my own Christmas presents, and my wife has cut me off now. So I guess I have to cut it off.
There we go. All right. The legendary WWE Hall of Famer, Tito Santana. Thanks a lot, Tito. We'll go to a break and we'll come back on the other side with more Wrestling with History. So follow us on X, WWHVOC. Find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we're going to go live at the VOC. It's just VOC Space Nation Space Wrestling Space Network. VOC Nation Wrestling Network. Do that, and we'll talk to you next week.
Hey, this is Chavo Guerrero Jr., and you're listening to the VOC Nation. Viva la raza!
Viva el chaleco!
We came from AM radio, and now it's all about the cloud.
VOC Nation, ladies and gentlemen, is what's happening. There's no doubt in my mind.
WWE Hall of Famer Howard Finkel.
It's amazing how the world turns and how the world changes each and every day.
Wow. Am I X-Pac in this? Like, how does this work out long term?
Wow. Yeah, I got nothing.
Somehow, some way, he weaseled my hotel room that I did stay at. He did not offer me 1 red cent, and Brady, some things never change.
How many wrestling marks does it take to change a light bulb? None, because wrestling marks will never change anything.
He appears to be like a genuine monster. Yeah.
I'm looking at your Facebook page right now, Bruce, and I think you can use some DDP yoga.
I agree with you 100%.
Let's be frank, this is entertainment. It's a matter of the right person getting behind you and the machine putting everything into you.
See, I was raised very old school. You have to have this in your blood and a passion for it to appreciate what you have.
You know, I give half truth, and I operate off of that.
It's not like Tammy's psycho. I think any woman would have done that, you know? 20 days after you get engaged, you find out that, you know, he's been cheating the whole time. Well, guess what? An ass-kicking will commence.
And your show is tremendous, coming back strong.
That is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard.
I kind of like it.
Oh, my God!
Wow. Yeah, I got nothing.
It's Victoria. What's going on, Victoria?
I can truly say I am living the dream.
It's the dawn of a new era.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is X-Pac, and you're listening to VOC Nation.